I never thought my life could collapse in a single night, but here I am, staring at the phone in disbelief, my hands shaking, heart pounding like a drum in a war zone. Sad, the truth hit me like a truck. My husband, the man I loved, trusted, and built my life around, was cheating on me. And it wasn't just some fling, it was with my best friend, my confidante, the person I told my deepest secrets to. Wasn't start usn'tly enough. Enough I backstrang, if one was sif with a tuis, if weshipizbup, what sart net capral, tankle up pasted you of ride, the dick braid or kin rewear. Lately, he had been coming home late, always with excuses that sounded rehearsed. Late meeting, traffic was crazy, helping a client. I swallowed each lie, convincing myself I was being paranoid. But deep down, something told me the warmth in our marriage had gone cold, and it wasn't my imagination. The first real hint came when I found the lipstick mark on his collar. At first, I froze, hoping it was a mistake. I washed it, pretending nothing had happened. But that night, the feeling of betrayal gnawed at me. Sleep didn't come. I lay there imagining the worst. Could it really be her, my best friend? The one who had shared my laughter, tears, and dreams? The thought made bile rise in my throat. Days passed, and my mind became an inferno of suspicion. I started noticing little things. Messages that disappeared when I entered the room, sudden phone calls he'd take in another room, the way he smiled at her name on his phone screen when he thought I wasn't watching. My gut screamed at me, but I needed proof. I decided to follow him one evening. Pretending I was out for a walk, I trailed him from a safe distance, heart hammering. He walked into a cafe I had never heard him mention before, and there she was, laughing, leaning on his shoulder, her hand brushing his arm like it belonged there. My world shattered in that moment. My stomach dropped, tears blurred my vision, and yet I couldn't look away. I went home, trembling, trying to act normal, but my mind was racing. How could they do this? How could she betray me so utterly? And the worst part? They didn't seem guilty. They were happy, carefree, basking in a secret world I had no part of. I wanted to scream, to run, to break something, but all I could do was sit on the edge of my bed, rocking slightly, whispering, "Why me? Why me?" The next day I confronted him. I tried to stay calm, voice steady, but every word was laced with pain. "I know about her," I said, trying not to cry. "I know what's been happening." He froze. For a second I thought maybe he would deny it. But then his face hardened, and I saw the coldness that I had never seen before. "You don't understand," he said, almost rehearsed, like he had said this before. "It's not what you think." But I knew it was. I could see it in his eyes. The betrayal had carved a hole in his soul, too, because he knew he was caught. And my best friend? When I called her hoping for a shred of decency, she laughed. Not nervous laughter, not apologetic laughter, laughing like she had won something at my expense. That night, I packed a bag. I couldn't stay in a house full of lies. The walls seemed to whisper their betrayal back to me, mocking me. I left with the bag and my dignity, though I felt like I had lost the rest. The city streets blurred as I drove aimlessly, tears streaming down my face, clutching the steering wheel like it was the only thing holding me together. But leaving wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a new kind of hell. Money, bills, responsibilities. Everything I had shared with him suddenly became a question mark. Could I survive alone? Would I have to fight for everything I had worked for while he and she laughed behind my back? And then, just when I thought the world couldn't get any darker, I got the call, my father-in-law. He wanted to talk. He said it was urgent. My stomach turned cold. Something told me it wasn't just a friendly check-in. Something told me the war was about to begin. When I arrived at his mansion, I saw him and her there, smiling like nothing had happened. And then he said words that made my heart stop. "She's going to be part of this family, officially." Astonished, I walked into my father-in-law's mansion feeling a mix of dread and fury. The air smelled of expensive perfume and polished wood, but it couldn't mask the tension buzzing like electricity around us. My husband and her were there. The sight of them together made my stomach twist. He looked smug, she looked triumphant, and I could feel my blood boiling. "Sit down," my father-in-law said, his tone calm but with an edge that made it clear this wasn't going to be a friendly chat. "We need to discuss the family matters, including finances." I froze. Finances? My mind spun. What else have they plotted? I had already suspected that my world was about to be upended, but I didn't anticipate just how deep the betrayal ran. They began talking about the estate, investments, and properties. I realized quickly that my husband had been manipulating the accounts behind my back. Savings I thought were ours vanished. Credit lines maxed out. Investments siphoned. I felt like the rug had been pulled from under me. My life, my security, my plans, all stolen in silence while I had trusted them. "I'm sorry," he said, almost like he thought it would fix anything. I needed to handle things differently. I wanted to scream. The audacity, the arrogance. Handle things differently? You mean steal everything I worked for while you were cheating behind my back? But it wasn't just him. My father-in-law, the man I once respected, sat there with a cold smile. "You see, my dear, family is about strategy," he said. "We make decisions that benefit the family's legacy, not individual whims." Her eyes met mine, full of satisfaction. I could see it clearly now. They had been working together, plotting a way to sideline me while securing everything for themselves. Every birthday, every celebration, every handshake, they had been weaving a web that trapped me. The reality hit me like a sledgehammer. I had no control over the finances, no access to accounts, and worse, the man I loved, or thought I loved, had betrayed me completely. I felt the weight of helplessness pressing down, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. I left that mansion trembling, tears streaking my face. My mind raced with thoughts of survival. How could I reclaim anything? How could I fight back when every pillar of my life had been undermined? And then, the first unexpected twist. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "I know everything. I can help, but it will cost you. Are you ready to fight?" For the first time since discovering the betrayal, a spark ignited inside me. Maybe I wasn't completely powerless. Maybe I could turn this nightmare around. I spent the next few days tracking finances, collecting proof, and contacting lawyers discreetly. Every call felt like walking a tightrope. I couldn't let them know I was on to them. If they did, everything I had left would be gone before I could even react. But life wasn't done throwing curveballs. One evening I felt off. Nausea, fatigue, anxiety. Something deep inside told me something had changed. A test confirmed it. I was pregnant. The news should have brought joy, but it only magnified the danger. Suddenly my child became a target. Every decision, every maneuver by my husband's family could affect this baby. And then the whispers began. My father-in-law had started mentioning that the property and inheritance would eventually transfer directly to the child, bypassing me, the mother. I felt trapped in a nightmare with no escape. Betrayal on every side, financial ruin, and now the stakes were my unborn child's future. Every interaction with them became a chess match. Every smile, every word, every move had a hidden meaning. I tried talking to my husband, hoping for even a sliver of humanity, but he dismissed me coldly. "You'll be fine. The child is covered. You don't need to worry," he said. The casual cruelty in his tone made my blood run cold. I realized they had already decided the rules of this game, and I was merely a piece on their board. Desperation set in. I considered leaving the city, starting fresh, taking my child away from this toxic environment, but every option felt like running. And I had already invested so much love, time, and effort into this life. That's when I made my decision. I would fight. Not just for myself, but for my child. For the future that was being stolen before they even arrived in this world. I began documenting everything. Emails, bank statements, conversations, threats. Every piece of evidence became ammunition. But even as I planned my counterattack, I knew they were watching. Every move I made could be anticipated. And the tension, the constant fear that one wrong step could destroy everything, was suffocating. That night, as I stared at the ceiling, trying to sleep, my husband's phone rang. I saw the message preview light up across the screen. "It's done. The property transfer is finalized." And in that moment, I realized they weren't just playing with me, they were already one step ahead. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, but I felt nothing but darkness inside me. The message I had seen the night before replayed in my mind. "It's done. The property transfer is finalized." Every ounce of fear, anger, and betrayal surged together like a storm. They weren't just cheating and stealing, they were planning to completely erase me from the picture, leaving me powerless while my child inherited everything under their control. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. I couldn't let them win. I wouldn't let them win. Not my husband, not her, and certainly not my father-in-law. My baby would have a future, even if I had to claw it out of their hands myself. I began planning my attack carefully. I hired a lawyer, someone discreet and ruthless, who assured me, "We can challenge the transfer and prove undue influence, but you have to be strategic. One misstep and they'll bury you." The following days were a whirlwind of meetings, documents, and whispered phone calls. I spent hours collecting evidence of financial manipulation, threats, and coercion. Every bank statement, every email, every hidden agreement became a weapon, and slowly I started seeing cracks in their armor. But then came the personal attacks. My husband, once a man I trusted, now wore cruelty like a crown. He mocked my attempts to fight, laughed at my tears, and flaunted his affair as if it were a badge of honor. "You'll never win," he sneered. "This family is stronger than you. Always has been, always will be." I swallowed my fear and hatred, storing it like venom. I couldn't afford to lose my temper, not yet. Every emotion, every scream, every bitter word would have played right into their hands. I had to be calm, calculating, precise. Then one evening, as I sat in my apartment going through financial records, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Meet me tonight. I have information that will turn the tables." I hesitated. Could I trust anyone? After everything, I had learned to be suspicious of everyone, even those who seemed loyal. But I had no choice. If there was even a chance to reclaim what was being stolen from my child, I had to take it. The meeting place was a small cafe on the edge of the city, dimly lit and deserted. I walked in and saw a man sitting alone, shrouded in shadows. He introduced himself as an accountant from my father-in-law's office. "I've seen what they've done," he whispered. "You need to act fast before the transfer is irreversible. There are loopholes they didn't account for." For the first time in weeks, hope flickered inside me. I listened carefully as he laid out a plan to challenge the property transfer legally while exposing my husband's and her financial deceit. It was risky. If they caught wind of it, they could retaliate. But it was the first step toward reclaiming my child's future. Meanwhile, my pregnancy progressed. Every day brought new worries. Would my child be safe in a family full of manipulators? Could I survive emotionally and physically while battling them? I could feel the baby moving inside me, and it was like a pulse of determination. I had to fight for this life no matter the cost. And then the confrontation. I went back to the mansion under the guise of reconciliation. My husband greeted me with smugness, as if nothing had changed. "You're back," he said. "Did you come to beg?" I smiled coldly. "No, I'm here to finish this," I said, handing him and his father a thick folder of documents. "Everything I've collected, every lie, every manipulation. You can try to deny it, but the evidence doesn't lie." Their faces changed, first disbelief, then anger, then fear. My father-in-law, the man who had once seemed untouchable, looked like a cornered predator. "You can't do this," he spat. "I already have," I replied, "and soon the courts will make sure this family knows exactly what justice looks like." But even as I spoke, I knew the war wasn't over. They would fight back. They would try to manipulate, bribe, threaten, and I would have to stay strong, not just for me, but for my child. Every move I made had to be precise, calculated, unwavering. That night, I received another shock, a lawyer's call. The court had issued a temporary injunction. All property and assets were frozen, but there was a twist. Someone had secretly placed a claim against my unborn child, attempting to disqualify the inheritance before it even began. I froze. My hands shook. My child was already being threatened. And at that moment, I realized this fight wasn't just about revenge or money. It was a battle for survival, for my baby, and for my life as I knew it. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and tension. Every whisper, every shuffle of papers seemed magnified. My heart pounded like a drum, and my palms were sweaty, but I refused to look afraid. This was it, the battle for my child, my legacy, my dignity. I had spent weeks preparing. Evidence meticulously gathered, testimonies lined up, and every loophole exploited. I was ready to face them, the husband who had betrayed me, the best friend who had laughed at me, the father-in-law who had plotted to erase me. When the judge entered, silence fell like a heavy blanket. I felt my baby kick, and a surge of determination coursed through me. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting the innocent life growing inside me. My husband sat across from me, smug as ever. His best friend or lover, I corrected myself in my mind, sat beside him, smiling faintly as if the courtroom were just another stage for their performance. My father-in-law's cold gaze met mine, but I refused to waver. The proceedings began. I laid out the evidence, presenting financial records, hidden communications, and witness statements. Each revelation hit like a thunderbolt. Gasps filled the courtroom. My husband tried to interject, but the judge silenced him. Every word, every document, every proof of deceit was a step closer to reclaiming what was stolen. Then came the bombshell. My husband's lawyer attempted to argue that my child had no claim to the inheritance, citing a minor technicality in the property transfer. My blood boiled. I had anticipated this. I presented the accountant from the cafe, the one who had shown me the loopholes. With expert testimony, he dismantled their argument piece by piece. But the drama didn't stop there. As the tension peaked, my father-in-law suddenly stood up, voice trembling with rage. "You think you can destroy everything we built? You have no idea who you're messing with." I leaned forward, eyes blazing. "You underestimated me. You thought I'd be weak, but I'm stronger than you ever imagined. And this child is already stronger than you'll ever be." The court was silent. Every word hung in the air like a guillotine waiting to drop. My heart raced, adrenaline pumping through every vein. I could feel the baby kicking again, and it was as if they were urging me on, giving me strength. Hours passed in a blur of legal arguments, cross-examinations, and emotional testimonies. By the time the judge called for a break, it was clear the tide had turned. The evidence was undeniable, the manipulation and deceit laid bare for all to see. Outside the courtroom, I took a deep breath, feeling both exhaustion and exhilaration. But I knew this wasn't over. They were fighters, schemers, and manipulators. And I had only just begun. The final showdown came the next day. The judge entered, and the room fell silent. Every eye was on me, on them, on the fate of the child. The verdict was read, property transfer reversed. All assets frozen until a legal settlement was finalized. My child officially recognized as the rightful heir. Tears streamed down my face. Relief, joy, vindication, they all collided inside me. I felt a weight lift that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. But just as I thought it was over, a final shock. My husband, furious and humiliated, stood up, voice shaking with rage. "You'll regret this. You think you've won. You haven't seen the last of me." I looked at him, a calm smile on my face. "Maybe, but I've already won the only battle that matters, the one for my child, and nothing you do can take that away." As we left the courtroom, I felt the sunlight on my face, the wind brushing against me. For the first time in months, I felt free, though scarred, wiser and stronger. I held my stomach, feeling the baby move, and whispered, "We did it. We're safe now. And no one will ever take you from me." The betrayal, the lies, the financial manipulation, it had all led to this moment. I had fought, clawed, and refused to break. And now, I had emerged victorious, not just for myself, but for the innocent life that depended on me. Even as I walked away from the courtroom, I knew this wasn't the end. My husband's threats lingered in my mind. The scars of betrayal would take time to heal. And there were whispers, dark secrets I hadn't yet uncovered, alliances I didn't yet know existed. But one thing was certain, I had survived. And now nothing, not lies, not betrayal, not greed, could ever destroy us.